I agree that we need to put the history down, but there's a certain aspect which I try to address.
Yeah.
If we don't deliver a modern Africa, a modern prosperous Africa in terms of material conditions, it becomes very difficult to even look at briefly, because that history will not be glamorous. If the history ends up in poverty for the country, people say, what was the sacrifice for? So what we have done for this country is actually to use the fact that we have the exposure of having been in the first world countries to learn about how Europe developed, how America developed, and how China developed. To take an inventory of what Zimbabwe is, what makes Zimbabwe be such a contentious country. It's its resource base. Then we have said that this resource base, what is missing to make Zimbabwe go to the next stage? It is capital. And it has to be world-class capital. So a lot of the things which have happened in this economy, including influencing our president to take a certain, the current president, and even our fight against the former president, because that is, she's the one who did the impeachment of the former president.
Oh.
Yeah, she was the one who did the impeachment.
Interesting.
Someone whom she had worked with in Mozambique as her boss. She says, no. Now, if you are going to take this country into poverty, that's not what we sacrifice for. So we have...
And if you're going to allow your young wife to run the country into a ditch...
Turn a country into a dynasty. This is not what we fought for. But what we have also done is to identify the most competent companies from those countries which are willing to come to Zimbabwe, to put their money into this country so that we begin to transform the economy of this country. The tobacco industry of this country had collapsed in 2002 because Africans had taken back the land and the whites refused to refinance the banks, white banks, colonial banks. They refused to refinance the same land because they said, we have title already, we can't give it. So we went to China. We found everybody smoking in China. We said, where do you get
tobacco from?
They say, we grow it all. But for the best cigarettes, the best blend is from Zimbabwe. So the higher the quality, the percentage of Zimbabwe leaf in a cigarette, the higher the purchase price. So all the premium cigarettes in the world
from here.
They are blended with
blend. The 13 to 16% is from here. So we had to think out of the box with them here to convince the Chinese to come and invest in the new farmer and remodel the whole thing away from auction to contract, so that there's a direct relation between the merchant and the farmer and bypass those banks. And today that industry is booming. 1 billion people. We have the biggest auction floors in the world, and we have 200,000 farmers registered, families registered. They are sharing 1 billion every year. That's why this economy cannot suffer. We looked at the gold industry in this country. I was the chairman of the War Veterans. The former president did not allow young people to dig gold because the mines were owned by the former colonials. But before the former colonials owned them, the mines were owned by the blacks. So why are you stopping young people from digging gold and sending the police against them? I went into the cabinet. I made sure that we changed the law, allowed young people to dig gold. Do you know what makes the Zimbabwean economy today tick? Those two crops. Gold accounts for almost 60%, 70% of the foreign currency which this country earns. That's why 2 months ago, everybody had a $100 note which was new, because they are selling gold to Dubai. If you change the price, of course, the gold disappears, it goes underground, it's smuggled. But if you give them the price which is right, it's not smuggled. That's why this economy ticks. These were reforms which came from me and her. We identified the best possible company in the world to do steel, because Zimbabwe has got 200 years of iron ore deposits. In this country, we have the third largest ferrochrome deposit in the world. There's no country, and we have the best coking coal in Africa, in Zimbabwe. So in terms of the production of steel, all the elements which are needed, the resources, are within the proximity of each other. China gets them 12,000 kilometers away from Brazil, 10,000 kilometers from South Africa, 8,000 kilometers from Australia. Zimbabwe, all it within 500. We had to focus, me and Monica, and work with the current president to attract that capital. So in next month, Zimbabwe becomes the major iron steel producer on the African continent. It is going to revolutionize the whole of the continent because we will be bigger than Ukraine.
Interesting.
In the next 2 to 3, 4 years.
Interesting.
We'll be bigger. So these and already even the South African industry, which the Western was boasting about, it's fretting and creaking under the prospect of competition from Zimbabwe. I know Zimbabweans love to get permits to go to South Africa to go and work because they thought the advanced economy is there. I can bet in the next 36 months, the permits will be coming the other way. It will be the president of Zimbabwe granting permits. So the quest, which is the
We will open the borders. We will not even worry much about permits. Our brothers and sisters in Africa, they should be allowed.
They should be coming here.
There should be free movement of
people, so that the Africa Free Trade Union allows the movement of goods and services, so that young people's energy can be released. Because only that way can we fulfill the quest for prosperity, which made so many sacrifices throughout the whole sub-region.
But I just want to say that, is it possible, like you have started, for us to address this issue concurrently? And the reason being is this. You and your wife, God bless you, and Zimbabwe are blessed to have you. But like she said, every time you lose one of your veterans,
the library goes.
Gone.
The library goes.
Is it, once we are focused on the prosperity,
we need to.
Can we also look at this?
I would be happy to write a book.
Absolutely.
I would be very happy.
On set.
I think
on set.
I think what I need is a little bit of push in money and resources, and somebody who is prepared to maybe to listen.
No, you don't need to write a book. Okay. The historical aspect of your experience, so that this young generation, and not only them,
and you're right. Let me tell you, I do agree with what he says, but I do disagree with waiting until we have prosperity.
No.
Because I don't know when I'm going to go.
Nobody knows.
I'm over 60, well over 60.
You know.
And I with the amount of energy I have to exert in my work, you can just.
Maybe you didn't realize what I was saying is that there are only so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
Now, if I had tried to write a book in the last 10 years,
you couldn't have accomplished the things.
I couldn't have built a steel plant.
But the rich history,
Now that there is a sense of movement on the economic side, it also gives me the luxury because it cottons on to many people. People are going to join into that economy.
Yeah.
It means that I can also withdraw and have more time.
But I was going to say that actually to write a book, it does not necessarily have to mean that you have to sit and begin to write.
Yeah.
Now what we are doing now, we can just take this whole tape and transcribe.
Yeah.
I'll be very happy. I'm personally would be very happy. Oh, wonderful.
We're going to work.
We have the Museum of African Liberation.
Yes.
And I started working on that with UNESCO.
Right.
These are challenges which I've been facing. So I'm trying to do, but you can only keep so many heads in the air. Heads in the air.
Yeah.
So but now where we are going, I think we need. I feel this, particularly after the death of my granddaughter, who used to retell them these stories. I feel that I need that story on the internet.
Absolutely.
For the other children and for posterity.
And for your great grandchildren.
Yes.
To come and read it.
Yes.
And for posterity.